So yeah, I can start off a little introduction. Is that okay? So my name again is Luke Rankin. I'm a junior studying political science, business administration, and African American studies in the Honors College. I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I grew up a diehard Gamecock, and that is something that I'm proud to say, but nothing would prepare me for the love that I have for this university today, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Walking on campus, being on the horseshoe and that freshman experience, I got involved early. I joined Sigma Alpha Epsilon, got involved with RHA and served as Columbia Hall president. That's actually where I met my running mate, Kate. She was a senator for that as well. I got on the Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee. I'm now on ODK. I'm Secretary of Campus Outreach for Student Government. Last year I was Secretary of Greek Affairs under Ross Lordo. One of the things I think that I'm most proud of is helping plan a curriculum for Close Family Emerging Leaders Program, so CFELP. And I got with Kaylee Campbell. She's no longer in the office, but she was with the LSC and the FSL office, and we helped plan a curriculum for this class. And then getting to see that class come to fruition and see students graduate from this class, and now all of those students are in leadership positions in different organizations across campus. So that's something I'm really, really proud about. And that's enough about me in introduction. Just kind of want to break into the platform. So we've kind of broken our platform up into 3 pillars: innovate, cultivate, and celebrate. We feel that these 3 key platforms cover every aspect of what it means to be a student at the University of South Carolina. This wasn't something where I said, I'm going to run, what's my platform going to be? These are the things that I've seen since my freshman year that I've absolutely loved. These are the things that I've seen that I haven't liked so much. These are new ideas that we just haven't brought to our university yet. And so kind of the culmination of all of that was put together in these 3 words. And I think it's really important, no matter if you're a first-year freshman or a fifth-year senior, it doesn't matter what your race, your ethnicity, your gender, your sexuality, your religion, where you come from, what your background is. If you're a student at the University of South Carolina, you should feel like you have a voice. You should feel like someone is representing your needs specifically and individually. And I think that all comes down to, you can be, and I'm not going to say this in a bad way about anybody, because every person running for this office, every person running for an exec is a great person and has great qualifications. I think the big thing is you have to be approachable. You have to be able to relate to people. You have to be vulnerable and open up and share your personal story and have other people's in turn share theirs. And that's where it comes to, and I shared this, during the debate, but I remember my freshman year and being in Columbia Hall, and there was a question about free printing and what we wanted to do to kind of bring that to fruition for our specific residence hall, and then what the talking question was about campus as a whole. And I walked into the LSC and in Michael Park's office, and getting to talk to him about that's something that you have to do. You have to be approachable. And I think that it shouldn't matter whether you are the same person, whether you look the same way. There's not one mold of what it means to be a student here. So I think it's really, really important that, again, you're approachable and vulnerable. Going to kind of some of the specifics within the platform that I'm really excited about. So under Innovate, there's so many ideas that we wanted to bring to the university. Parking is something that every last person is going to talk about. It's a big ticket issue. It's something that is not isolated to the University of South Carolina. It's something that we face as a whole in Columbia. So what we want to do to actually have something that you can implement and put into place to alleviate this here in campus is look at Bull Street Garage. Look at those big garages, Horizon, Pendleton, where a lot of visitors and students are using. Right now you can only pay with Carolina Card or cash. We want to put kiosks so that you can use a credit card and simply and easily just swipe a card, get to and from class instead of waiting in that 40% line to get in and out. Another thing, and I'll kind of go into Innovate, is it's really, really important, no matter who you're voting for, that you're voting this year, because we have a new president, a new CFO, and a new provost coming in. Whoever is in this office is going to be the one that sets the tone for this is what we expect as our student voice. These are the issues on our campus. This is the climate. We want to meet with you once a week. We want to have you come and speak to all student organizations, whether that's setting that up for a bi-weekly, a monthly, setting where all, maybe it's an organization where presidents of every organization come together and have a meeting with these new leaders. So that's something that's really important, that we have to realize that we have a lot of new leadership coming in, and whoever's in this office is going to be the one who says, this is what we expect as students. These are the issues on our campus. This is the climate. That being said, diversity, inclusion, and equity are big, big parts of our platform, and a huge thing that Kate and I wanted to talk about. But that being said, one specific thing I'm really, really proud about is Carolina Life. And this is a community that's aimed and geared towards students with learning disabilities. This community is often overlooked and underrepresented. They've never had a person on cabinet. They've never had a representation in student government. And that's something that we've got to change. And so as president, you have a cabinet, you have a staff. Cabinet is what represents every pocket, every corner, every facet of campus life. I've been on Cabinet for 3 years, and I've seen how it changes with different leadership, from Michael Parks to Ross Lordo to current, Student Body President Taylor Wright. And every one of them has been great. But we've got to bring more and more. And I'm not saying anything negative about the 3 of them at all. I've loved it. I've served on it. I've been proud to be a part of student government. But it's continuing it, bringing it on. Another thing is Stigma-Free SC. Stigma-Free USC was the most successful event student government has put on, period. And that was something that we had with student government. We had more interactions, more engagements, and more people coming together than any other event. It is an amazing thing. Katie Cohen, the amazing people that are in student government that help champion and lead that. What we propose, and is on our platform, is we want to bring that and have it stigma-free SC. So it's not just the University of South Carolina, partnering with schools across the state and having this. So if you're at Clemson, Wofford, if you're at, it doesn't matter, Coastal Carolina, anywhere in the state, we want to partner with you. We want to have this where you can have a week dedicated to breaking down the taboo and the stigma associated with mental health and talking about it on your individual and specific campus, and at the end of the week, coming together and lobbying our General Assembly and saying, we want to make sure no matter where we are in the state of South Carolina, we have the funding and the resources to adequately represent all issues of mental health. Going into Celebrate, we have so much tradition, so much to be proud of and celebrate being a student at the University of South Carolina or an alumni. Imagine something like Dance Marathon, when you have students and community members coming together and forming teams. It's going to be a 9/11 memorial event. This is going to be in Williams-Brice Stadium, and you're going to run 911 steps. All of the money and proceeds from this event are going to go to student veterans and students who are currently serving. I think it's really, really important when we look at 9/11, an event that we do have an event for on campus currently, but taking it to that next level, an event that was so horrific but unified our country, resonating that now currently on a local level, and having student veterans and students, again, an overlooked population, bringing them into the conversation, and not just the conversation, but actually having something there for them, and not just saying you have a seat at the table, because a seat at the table is nothing if you can't speak. So that's kind of a little bit about the platform. Please ask questions. I only talked about maybe 4 or 5 of the points. We have like 15. A little bit about myself. Again, I don't want to go on and on about my credentials or anything like that.
Yeah, and we can jump into the questions.
Yeah,
now.
please.
Yeah, so one of the first things you mentioned was how when you decided you were going to run, you didn't have to create a platform because you already kind of knew because you're a student. How sure are you that these issues you see on campus are issues for all students and not just yourself?
And so that's really, really important to me, and a good question, in that saying this very specifically, I'm not a person of color. I'm not in, the art classes. I'm not in this, that, or the other. But that doesn't mean I don't have empathy. It doesn't mean that I don't have something that I can care for that, or that group of people. I care for that, group of students or that pocket of students. And so I think it's just saying whatever we have is not just for me. I'm not someone who struggles with mental health. I'm very passionate about it because I do have family members that do, and it's something that's very close to my heart. But it's still important, and it's still something that is going to be at the forefront of our platform and of this campaign. And I think when you look at Dance Marathon, not everyone is affected, with students that deal with illness or children that deal with illness, but they still care and they still have empathy. So it's the same kind of thing for me. And so just making sure that, again, no matter where you are, no matter what facet of campus you're in, no matter what corner, if you're involved in a million clubs or involved like all of you in this room are involved in nothing, you have a voice. You should feel like you can talk to someone. So again, it comes back to being vulnerable, being approachable. So even if there's something that I might not have talked on or touched specifically within our platform, knowing that student could come to me and say, hey, this is something that I'm struggling with, this is an issue that I have, and knowing without a doubt that they can do that and that they will be received and that I'll take the time to sit down and talk to them.
How do you make them feel like comfortable enough to do that?
I think it comes to being vulnerable and opening up about myself, and that's something, so I shared a little bit about this. I didn't expect to, actually, during the debate. I have an amazing support group. I have an amazing family. I have the most loving friends, and that being said, and I don't say this as a victim, it'll come full circle, my mom is an alcoholic. That is not isolated to me. I have lots of friends that, deal with that. And growing up, it was really hard. There were times when I had to be the adult, and ultimately in the 8th grade, I made the decision that resulted in us moving to my dad's full-time and her going to rehab. And when she is sober, she's the world's best mom. And she is in rehab right now getting the help that she needs. But I say this because the strife in your life, the strife in my life, and the strife in anyone in this room's life is not a thing of scale. Whether you wear it on your sleeves or it's something more internal, everyone is going through something. And so if I can open up and be vulnerable about my story and my life and things that I'm going through, and creating that relationship and cultivating that relationship and connection with someone in turn for them to feel comfortable to open up, I think that's how you would do it. So just being very open, being vulnerable, being transparent about who you are as a person, what your intentions are. And again, just making sure that you're representing every student here, not just one group.
You mentioned transparency
Yeah.
and wanting to be able to hear everyone's voice.
Yes.
And you mentioned it through vulnerability and all that stuff. But are there any like concrete, initiatives that you want to put in place to make sure that you actually do have a connection with organizations and with individual people?
So that's a huge thing. I think, and this is a big question that people are talking about. And I think there was an article, that y'all put out about students. What is student government? What are these elections? Who are these candidates? So it's not just the campaign season that you should be going to organizations and talking to people. As Secretary of Campus Outreach, being able to plan events and seeing, let's have a tabling event on Green Street. No one's running. We're just going on Green Street and talking about, what's going on in student government. Having those interest meetings. Having things where we can go to different organizations and help them and be a liaison. So that's something that I'd like to have is within cabinet is add another person to that cabinet. And so I don't know if it would be the Secretary of Campus Outreach position that I'm in currently or maybe a staff position, but a specific person that's going to be a liaison and have that be a committee where they can then go to there's over 400 student organizations, so that's tough. When I say that, it's great in theory, but in practice it's different. And so I'm a person, I'm not going to say anything that I don't believe we can actually do. I'm not going to promise something. I'd love to say we're all going to have free parking, but it's just not going to happen. And so when I say something like that, it's making sure that we have the infrastructure for student government then to reach out and go where students are and not just have the LSC and the SG office be where students are coming, going to where students are. And so whether it's going to their meetings, whether it's being on Green Street, whether it's having something in Russell House at meal times, just different ways that you can reach the students and it not just be this traditional method of the SG office is where you can come if you have an issue.
Are these just ideas, or are these like things that you definitely plan to do?
Oh no, these are things that are like definitely plan to do. Yeah.
So talking about these things you plan to do, you mentioned that 9/11
Yes.
event. So I'm curious about, you said the money would go to students who are currently serving
Yes.
and alumni or veterans?
Student veterans.
Student
yeah.
veterans, okay. So how would you raise money at this event? Would it be something similar to Dance Marathon?
So again, when I have that comparison to Dance Marathon, so it's going to be something where you build teams and you have community members, so businesses, people that live in Columbia, South Carolina, that live in South Carolina, period, coming together. Are any of you in the room familiar with Wounded Warrior?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that my family and friends back at home are really involved in, and so that idea that you have certain families come and also speak on their experiences through their time in the military, having also veterans there and having that, so like, hey, if you own Groucho's, you want to help support and maybe you're going to fundraise for a team. Another business in Columbia or another business in South Carolina is going to raise money for a team or a family or a group of students or a group of friends. So it's like Dance Marathon, that fundraising aspect, and then coming together and building those teams, and then again going into Williams Rice Stadium, having everybody run these steps, walk these steps. It's not going to be like a fast-paced run, at your pace, running the steps, and then having like a big speaker and it being a big celebration, not just all right, let's go to Willie B, let's run some steps and then let's leave. Having it be an event, and then again, I think it's important that this is something that can be sustainable, that is not just going to happen one year. And okay, great, yeah. If I get the great honor of serving as student body president, I get to say that I did this. I don't care about that. I want to put something in place that can then be carried on and on and on, and leave a legacy. So I think, does that answer your question?
So the Veterans Day 5K
Yes.
already exists,
Yes.
and they do have a speaker, and that's an annual event that's been going on
Yes.
for a little while, and I believe they raise money through it,
They
and they
do.
have veterans there. How is that different?
So Brooks Herring is actually the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and he is the one who really helped champion that this year, and it was incredible. I think again, that's its own thing. That's going to be with veterans. This is specifically representing 9/11 and giving back also to a similar group, But I don't think it's, it's great to say, take this to diversity and inclusion. Say we want to promote diversity and inclusion on campus, and we're going to have a talk about it. What does one talk do when we are on campus for an entire year, 2 semesters? So it's great that we have that event, but it's one event. So adding more and having it be something that's prolonged throughout the semester. Because this event isn't like Dance Marathon. Dance Marathon, yes, it's one day and one event, but we know how long, everybody in this room knows how long and how much work and effort goes into that. Not just one semester, but 2. And so it's a similar thing. Having it be an event where people are constantly meeting, constantly organizing, constantly raising money, and having it be something that it's one day, but the prep work for it is something that keeps alive every single day and is contributing to the community.
You've mentioned diversity inclusion a
Yes.
lot. What's your definition of diversity on campus?
Diversity on campus, it's not just one dimension. It's not just race and ethnicity. That is very important, yes, but it's every aspect. So it shouldn't just be based on one dimension of, are you a person of color? Are you not? It should be, every aspect. So whether you're a part of the LGBTQ community, whether you are, a community member that has a learning disability, whether you're someone who's dealing with alcohol, alcoholism or addiction, it's not just one aspect. It's diversity on every front and inclusivity in the same regard, and having it be, okay, great. It's, those are big words. We're going to have those. You look at a website for a university, you look at something and it's going to be diversity. We're proud of our diversity. But what does that mean if it's just a token word? So that's where inclusion comes in, and having everyone be represented, having everyone be included, and not just saying, okay, this is what we have. We're a diverse campus. Thank you. Next. No. This is what you can laugh. And so it's having this idea that, okay, yes, we're diverse, but what are we doing to be inclusive? What are we doing to include every student at the University of South Carolina? Not just in saying, oh, we'll have a dialogue. A dialogue's great, but what are you going to get out of this dialogue? What is going to come from this? Is there going to be anything of fruition? Are we going to see a change on campus? Are we going to see students feel that they have a representation that they didn't previously?
What are you going to do to include students in terms of diversity? Like, how do you plan to implement that?
Yeah, so again, another thing on the platform, this is something that actually is happening now in this coming week, is a diversity week. Something on the platform is a diversity week with Monday through Friday programming, and that's something that is on our platform that's similar to this week, but kind of a little bit different on another level. But you can't be prescriptive about the approach. I can't say, hey, I'm your student body president. I'm going to represent you. Here's what I want to do for you. I'm not a person of color. I'm not going to speak on what that experience is. It doesn't mean I don't have empathy for it. It doesn't mean that I don't care about it. But I can't come to you and come to a group of people, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's partnering with an organization like It's On Us. I can't go to that organization and say, this is what I think you should do to help promote you. Because that's not how that works. So it's having a communication where it says, hey, I'd love to do this. What can we do together from the beginning? And it not just being this approach like, hey, we'd like you to come and table on Green Street for this event. No, it has to be more. It has to be, what can we do together to help this climate on campus? What can we do together to further and better what's going on our campus?
You've mentioned a little bit about how student government is kind of displaced from the rest of the community.
Yes.
Do you think that there is a stigma or a lack of understanding when it comes to student government?
Oh, most definitely. I would 100% agree with that. I think, it's unfortunate that it exists, but yes, and I think it's some to the fault of student government itself, and then some just there's so many organizations on campus. And this idea that people might not know what's going on. So is it a marketing question? Is it a question of, being represented? Do they feel like they can come and talk to this organization? And maybe it's a combination of both. But I do think that there is, and I think how you break that down and how you make it more inclusive and make it where all students are being represented is, again, not just being in the office and going to where the students are, and going to different areas that students are meeting, not just being in this one room in Russell House.
How exactly do you plan to make student government more inclusive? Like you mentioned, the people with disabilities, but what about everyone else?
So again, that cabinet, that's just one specific group that I mentioned just because they previously have never had a representation on cabinet or in student government. So again, as president, you have a staff, but then you have a cabinet. You have secretaries and deputies on that cabinet. It is making sure that you have someone from every pocket, every corner of campus that represents a different perspective. And having those opinions, not just there, but being integral in the decisions that are being made, being a vital part and being listened and respected, and bringing all of that together into what we do and what our next steps are.
How would you hold yourself and your team accountable if there were any missteps or mistakes?
There's always, going to be mistakes in everything in life. And I'm a firm believer. I make mistakes. Oh my gosh. I never will be and never want to be close to perfect. But you've got to learn from those mistakes. And so, I think it's something where, and this again, and I don't want to keep bringing it back to this, but it's my relationship with my mom. I have an amazing relationship with her, and she talks about the mistakes that she's made. And my biggest thing with her is, Mom, I love you. I want you to be happy and healthy and productive. Don't hold on to it. Learn from what's happened and let's move forward. So having that be kind of a close part of who I am and growing up in my childhood, it's saying that, yeah, we make mistakes. We're human. We're not perfect. But what are you going to do to learn and grow from them? I'm a firm believer. It's 10% what happens and 90% how you react.
So what would that, so say you did become student body president, what would that transition period look like? What's the first thing you'd want to do?
I think it's, that immediate, we have an amazing team. And I will say I have friends on every individual campaign and every student who's running for a different office, not just, the executive offices, but Senate as well. And if we win, knowing that they also will have a seat and be able to say and get involved, because there are so many amazing individuals at the University of South Carolina, and so many people that are talented and that are giving and contributing to this community. And it's having those people, hey, come together, this is what we're doing, and moving forward. So that transition period is not going to be long. It's going to be something where I know how the office works. I know I have those relationships with administration and with staff in that office. I understand what the parameters and the codes are, what the Constitution is, and being able to say, okay, we did it, but that's not over. I think a lot of times people look at as the end of the debate in the campaign and the election as kind of that final step. Oh, we won. Guys, that's when it starts. And so knowing that this is just the beginning. No matter what happens, this is just the beginning. And if elected, that's just the start. What are we going to do? Snap fingers, let's get on it. And so, yeah, we have this platform. A platform is great if it's, just this whimsical thing above your head, this idea that you want to follow. That's nothing. It's got to be, this is what we're doing, how are we doing it? And so that's why I'm very, very, very excited that everything on our platform is achievable. I'm not going to promise something that can't happen. I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to have a Jay-Z concert, or we're going to have Thank You Next Ariana Grande. Are we going to have something that just can't happen? I would love to say that we would have free Wi-Fi in the student section of Williams-Brice Stadium. It's not going to happen. So promising real things and holding my team, holding student government itself accountable to the students, and representing the students' needs. And so if I do mess up, if I do make a mistake, owning it and saying I'm so sorry that this happened, if something would like that were to arise, and growing from it and learning from it.
Oh, sorry. You mentioned before you're very vulnerable and you're very open, you want to be approachable. How do you feel about that in the sense of campaign finance? Yeah,
so it's a very real thing. Spending money for this election is something that you have to do. I think, and so I guess what is your question, just in being open about?
About just how much you're spending on your campaign, and just the ability of the huge variance that there is between everyone.
Yeah, so that's something, I'm using my own money for this. My parents have not given me, and I love them, it's not like a knock on them, they haven't given me money. This is my deal, this is my thing that I'm doing for myself. And so, Kate is using her own money, and her parents are helping her a little bit and coming together, and saying, we're not going to go and spend $10,000 on this. Because how is that fair for you if a student can spend that much money and then someone else who's running can't? How does that put you on an even playing field if you still want to represent the university as a whole? So do you feel like you should be transparent with how much you've been spending on your campaign? I think that's something that you should.
Something student government and student media are supposedly supposed to have in common is giving a voice to the student body.
Yes.
So I'm wondering how you plan to include student media in under your transparency umbrella.
Oh my gosh, that's having a student media representative in every meeting. Having someone there, not just at cabinet, having someone there and saying, hey, okay, this is what we're doing right now. Help write on this. I'm a big, and this is kind of, you just hit a sweet spot for me because of my honors thesis. It is on the effects of social media on the presidential election, specifically 2016. And I'm not going to go off on a tangent about that. But the media is the friend of every citizen, and it should be. So take that to our micro level at the University of South Carolina. Every student should know what the Daily Gamecock and SGTV and every other, if it's a blog, if whatever it is, they should be and have every right to know what's going on. So with Kate, and I'm not going to go off and talk specifically about her, but a big thing for her within the budget is transparency of fees, transparency of funding. So that's great, but we have to have the student media involved in that, because how are the students going to know if it's not being put out to them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, through a physical paper? So yeah, having someone there in the meetings, having someone there that, yeah.
One of the promises you mentioned was with parking in the kiosks.
Yes.
How is that process going to look like, trying to get the kiosks?
So that's something that I've been in conversations already and have since fall about just being on cabinet and different things about, okay, what are we going to do to alleviate the parking services? It is a slow moving process. I'm not going to say it's not. That's why I'm not going to promise a new garage. That's why I'm not going to promise, okay, we're going to have, meters just thrown up, because it's not going to happen. This is something that there's been a strong sentiment for, and it's just pushing that and saying, hey, I'm sorry, but this has to happen. This has to be done. And saying, we're going to do this. We've had a conversation about it before. This is the money that you have already within your department, and the infrastructure is already there, but now it's go time. And let's do it, and let's make it happen. And so it's putting it, it's saying, hey, we know that you have the money for this. We know that this is a conversation that's happened, but it hasn't happened yet. So this is the ultimatum, and now is the time to do it. And I think it plays in with that new leadership as well.
So you're lobbying the university for these kiosks? Like, how exactly?
So it's not a lobbying process, more of as the student body president, as someone who's in student government and different committees and different kind of areas within the umbrella of student government. You meet with different departments on campus, and it's not so much lobbying as a partnership, and saying, okay, this is an infrastructure that we have talked about, but we haven't pulled the trigger on. We haven't done it yet. Why is that? And so, like the student union, there's a student union committee, a student union steering committee. The student union isn't going to be here in 2 years. It's probably not going to be here in 5. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just realistic. But parking and adding a kiosk, that's not a big expense. That's not building a new building. That's not having an entire new project, being put into place. It's adding upon the current infrastructure. And so it's not a huge, paycheck. It's not a huge dollar sum that it's going to take to do that. But it's something that can be done that will still help.
So does that come from student money that we pay for tuition?
That would not be from the student activity fee. No. That's from part of the money comes, yes, from students' pay. But that student activity fee, the $87 that goes into the $185,000 fund, that is allocated back out to student organizations. So that's a separate fund. This would be from money that the university has in its own pool. But obviously, the university gets money from students in every aspect.
And what department would you be partnering with in order to get this?
So that would be the Department of Parking Services. That would be lobbying with the Board of Trustees and talking with them and saying, hey, this is what we need to do. So it might come from a different fund or a different budget, but as a whole, so leadership as a whole, it's not just going to be with one department. Does that answer the question? Perfect.
All right, we're almost out of time. Do you think there's anything that we missed? Anything you'd like to add about yourself?
No, I appreciate y'all taking the time to sit down with me. Any other questions, guys?
I have none.
Well, I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.